Time now for the markets with Leighton, and the USDA this week decreased its soybean forecast.
That's right. The monthly crop and supply demand numbers, brand new, came out Wednesday the 12th. That same report also forecast the lowest U.S. crop production in 6 years. Meanwhile, cotton trade is being hammered by climbing world stocks as prices for feeder cattle turn somewhat firm. Wednesday's government crop report continued to show the impact of widespread drought in the United States this year. There were more cuts to estimated corn and soybean production. I talked with Extension Ag economist Dr. John Michael Riley Thursday morning to get his take on the new figures. John Michael, on the corn side, was a smaller than expected cut to that production estimate.
That's correct. No big changes on any acreage, but the yield estimate came in at right around 122 bushel an acre. The market was looking for that to be closer to 120. So actually a slightly larger crop than the pre-report would have said, but still compared to where we thought we were going to be at the beginning of planting, we're nowhere near that number. Production for this year's right at 10.7 billion bushels. Actually brought in more corn from last marketing year to this year because of the fact that we are so far ahead of pace with the corn crop. We had some more corn to market before we closed out last marketing year, and that bumped the beginning stock number and trickle on down. You know, some changes throughout, but no real big changes in terms of the use. Ending stock 733 million bushels. That's slightly lower, about 100 million bushel larger than where we were at last month and where we expected to be. So a slightly larger corn crop, which is a good thing, but that news is kind of tethered away with the fact that we do have such a smaller crop than what we were hoping to have.
All right, and on the soybean side, I'm sure production again has been brought down, continuing to shrink.
It is. The yield estimate right at 35 bushel an acre. That was right in line with pre-report expectations. No change in the ending stock number for soybeans, 115 million bushels. We're looking for the trade was looking for that number to be closer to 100 million, but we've seen some slack off in exports, and just domestic use has not really been there because of such a high price. Buyers are looking to go elsewhere to find some protein sources and some oil. Those issues are something that the market is dealing with respect to soybeans.
All right, you mentioned price. So what has market reaction been? We're recording this late Thursday morning. The report came out Wednesday morning. What's the market done?
The lower than expected corn crop put some pressure on corn, but it was a negligible amount, so it wasn't a market, a limit down day or anything. But it did put some pressure, and that filtered through the other crop markets. So that overall, I think that we're still sitting pretty steady. We're hitting around this $8 per bushel corn price and somewhere in the neighborhood of 16 to 17 for soybeans, and that seems to be a limit that we don't want to go higher than, but we're not backing off of.
Well, let's look at cotton now on Farmweek. DTN reports a new record high in world ending stocks in the Wednesday numbers, and that outweighed the slightly friendly tone in the supply-demand forecast side of the monthly reports for cotton. Analyst Naomi Bloom thinks the big supply is going to continue to be a problem for the cotton market.
Ending stocks globally are so large that it's not a happy tale for the cotton prices, and it's likely to stay that way for quite some time. India actually is on pace to have a record crop. They actually have had decent weather because the monsoons have not been horrible this year, so they're going to be producing a lot. With the economy not good, people are not buying lots of clothing, and that's really affecting everything in China and their factories there. So likely we'll see cotton actually stay with 70 as support in the big picture and 77 as some resistance for now, and I think we'll see that continue. Also, what I'm thinking for next spring is that we're going to see a lot of the cotton producers in the southern states maybe switch to sorghum. That's kind of the up-and-coming crop. I think there's a lot of potential for that. And of course, maybe a little bit more of a switch to corn and beans just because there's not really a big advantage in cotton right now.
A well-known Mississippi-based agricultural input supplier announced a change this week. Cleveland, Mississippi-based Jimmy Sanders Incorporated is forming a strategic partnership with Pinnacle Agriculture Holdings, LLC. Sanders chairman Mike Sanders says that this development will provide his company with a national distribution network extending beyond the Mid-South. Well, let's move to our trivia quiz for this week, and we're talking dairy with our question. And here it is. How much milk does the average American consume in 1 year? Is it 10 gallons or 15 gallons, up to 25 gallons or 30 gallons? You'll find out in a few more minutes. Harvest pressure in the corn market appears to be helping make feeder cattle prices somewhat firmer these days. Analyst John Roach explains that whenever corn prices ease back, it benefits feeder producers.
We have people that are chopping corn and preparing to feed cattle, and so we think that market's probably going to stay on somewhat of a firm footing here as long as we don't move the corn market back higher. In fact, if we see the corn market come under some harvest time pressure, which is what we anticipate, we think that'll put some strength into the feeder cattle.
The USDA has cleared the way now for imports of whole cuts of boneless beef from Japan to resume. Our government says it has determined that Japan is now free of foot and mouth disease. The U.S. had halted beef exports from Japan back in April 2010 because of an outbreak of the disease there. Wagyu beef, which is highly marbled, makes up the bulk of the Japanese beef imported by the United States. Just ahead of our feature story, here's the trivia answer for this week. Again, our topic was dairy. C, 25 gallons is the correct choice. That's how much milk the average American consumes in a year.